Hey, it's the OGGM. It's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's the 26th day of April 2022. It's 63 degrees and cloudy here in Site B, and I have a migraine. It's baseball season. Let's go Dodgers. And this is a video response or a video follow-up to my friend Aaron the Pendentics video he did the other day about old edition, first edition AD&D type wizards, like wizards before their hit points jumped from a D4 to a D6. Now, everybody talks about why would they want to play a wizard back then? You got crappy hit points, and you kids today with your wizards, you start with a D6 hit points. You can use a crossbow. You can, you get infinite 0-level spells, so you're zapping off that ray of frost like there's no tomorrow. You don't even have to worry about casting your 1 or 2 first-level actual spells because you're just like, ray of frost, ray of frost. You got the stats, and blah, 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 blah. You're a freaking superhero compared to the old school wizards. The old days, a wizard got a D4 hit points. And if you're playing a wizard, you're not going to put your best stats in the stuff that matters. You're going to put it in the intelligence to get all those advantages for being a high intelligence wizard. And even then, the advantages weren't that great. An 18 intelligence wizard, well, I can cast more spells of higher levels. But at first level, that doesn't help me at all. First level, I'm starting with a D4 hit points, 1 freaking spell that I get to cast once per day. And if you're lucky, that spells detect magic. If you're really lucky, you might get magic missile. But most of us, yeah, You know what you got for weapons as an OG first edition AD&D wizard? You got a stick. You got a bag of rocks. Maybe you got some darts you stole from the bar. And if you're really, really lucky, a dagger. But chances are, if you're playing a D&D wizard in those days, your strength was like 9. So you're barely able to lift the dagger. You're walking around with your stick. Your armor consisted of robes, a burlap sack, and a hat. That was it. That's all you got. And you're not putting your high stat in dex, so you're walking around with a 9 armor class in a world where you maybe have 2 hit points and the weakest level weapon in the game does a D4 and the weakest level spell in the game does a D4, which means somebody throws a water balloon at you, you're dead. Try walking around with 1 hit point, no armor, and your only weapon is a stick. You didn't even get to use spears. You didn't even get to use spears as an old edition wizard. One of the simplest weapons in the world. It's a sharpened stick. 0-level farmers can use spears. But you can't. So, yeah. First level wizards in the old editions were hardcore. Because if you could keep that 6 strength, 1 hit point guy alive to 2nd level, dude, that was like surviving, 100 days military training in the desert. I mean, you survived the D&D world, of the old school, where a frickin' water balloon could kill you, to 2nd level. Imagine keeping that character to 8th. And everybody whines and complains about how weak they were, but you gotta understand, even when they first made the game, they knew. They somehow instinctively knew that, yeah, this guy sucks at 1st level, but once he hits 5th level, once he gets that first 3rd level spell, and they made it so hard for you to get this spell because you had to be 5th. And then if you're lucky, you had to roll to learn it. But if you did learn it, you knew the first spell that wizard was going to take when he hit 5th level was Fireball, and that was the end of things. That was it. Game over, because now you have a guy throwing around 5d6 worth of Fireball that fills a 10 by 10 sphere every time he feels like it, And you didn't care if player characters and friends got in the way. You didn't care how big the room was. That meme is true. You were a wizard, you hit 5th level, you learned Fireball, you became the most dangerous thing on the planet. That's why they made it so hard to level them. That's why they made them so weak, and that's why they made it so hard to hit 5th level, because they knew, even day 1, Gary and Dave knew this motherfucker's going to be raining down hellfire if he lives long enough, and you know he's not going to care if a few other player characters get in the range. I cast Fireball. But Steve's character's in the range. I don't remember saying that I cared. I cast Fireball. Steve can walk it off. 5d6, 6d6, 10d6, 18d6. They had to nerf Fireball later on because they didn't want some guy throwing around 18d6 fireballs like a snow tomorrow. Bam, there goes your city. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, really? Pissed me off? Fireball. There goes the bar. There goes the entire... You killed the entire party. That means I get the experience for killing the entire party. Why did you cast Fireball when they were in the room? Because it's not a precision spell, Roger. Hashtag Roger the Fireball. So here's my first edition wizard story and why I love first edition wizards, why I love rolling 3d6, and why I think first edition wizards are hardcore. The very first D&D game I played with TJ Storm, I had to roll up a character, and my stats sucked. 3d6 down the line, 6 strength. I think my dex was 10 or 11. My con was pretty sucky too. It was like 10 or 11. It wasn't high enough to get that hit point bonus, that was sure. My wisdom was 8, but I had a 15 intelligence and like a 16 charisma. Wizard. I mean, what other could I be? Wizard. I'm walking around and I rolled that D4 to get my D4 hit points. What did I roll? 1. I'm a 6 strength wizard with an 8 wisdom with 1 frickin' hit points and the worst armor class in the game. I could have been naked. What was the point of me putting on the burlap sack if it wasn't going to include my armor ball? Then we rolled randomly to figure out what spell I picked up for my starting spell. Detect magic. Once per day, I could tell you if there was magic in the room. I didn't even get magic missile or anything good. It was detect magic. My very first adventure, playing that character, I get separated from the party. And I think they're up these stairs. So I go up these stairs to look for them. And all there is at the top of the stairs is a fountain and a few other things. And I'm like, oh, they're not here. I turn around. There's a frickin' wandering monster check ogre following me. A 1 hit point armor class 10 wizard with 1 frickin' spell has to try and get his way past an ogre. And all I have is a top of a staircase with a fountain. And the first thing that comes to my mind is frickin' cartoon logic. So I'm like, hey, do I have a bar of soap? I mean, we didn't really write down my character's equipment, so, you know. And TJ's like, yeah, bar of soap. So I stuff up the fountain with the bar of soap to cause the water to flood down the stairs. So now the stairs are covered with this slippery soap water. This is Little Rascals, Dennis the Menace, Warner Brothers logic. Okay? Stairs, soapy water, and then I hide around the corner with my stick, my staff, and I wait till the ogre gets to the top, and I'm like, wham! I'm hoping that somehow, my 6 strength can cause this ogre to trip on the slippery stairs and fall back down, and I natural 20. Boppity, 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 snap. The 1 hit point wizard with an armor class of 10 whose only spell was detect magic took out an ogre with a bar of soap and a stick. And I'm like, okay, and that's like enough experience points for me to get to 2nd level. And I'm like, he's like, all right, well, what's your first 2nd level spell? I was like, magic missile. Make there be no question that I'm learning every single solitary combat spell I can. And the second I got that fireball, I came up with my own mathematical theory. It was Nagadine's theorem. The amount of damage your fireball does is directly proportional to the amount of friends in the radius. Fireball your friends, they like it. I proved that my numbers were always consistently higher if there was at least 1 party member in the radius when I cast Fireball or any of my other radius range spells. Burning Hands was always more effective if somebody was in the ring. Flaming Sphere, always more effective. I blew everything up. I made it an invisible fire. I was like, I kept that character alive for like 8 levels, and even when he died, I fought tooth and nail to find a way to bring him back for like 3 years. And he finally did come back, and I fought tooth or nail to keep him alive until I stupidly took on a giant kaiju by myself. And then I died again. And I was fighting to the very end to bring him back for a third time. On and off, I played that character for 15 years in TJ Storm's Company of the Bull game. And I could have had, hundreds of chances to make a more, survivable, hardcore, actual playable character. When the wizard died, I got to play a paladin, and that paladin kicked ass. He was an amazing character. I loved him. He sacrificed his life to save the whole party, which was a total lawful good paladin thing to do. But all the time in the back of my head is like, I got to bring that character back. I got to bring the wizard back. Why? Because he's so freaking hardcore. I kept him alive that long. I'm not giving up that easy. So that's why OG first level AD&D old school wizards were so hardcore. 1 hit point, armor class 10, armed with a stick, walking around in the old world with everything trying to kill you. 1 spell that you get to cast once per day, as opposed to wizards today. You get to use crossbows. You get to use a spear. I don't even get to use a spear. Now get out of my dungeon, you damn kids, with your damn infinite ray of frost.